And good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone out there. This is the Good Morning Education Show, and we are live streaming from Lagos, Nigeria, West Africa to the world. And I'd like to thank you, everyone, for joining. And I am always here with fantastic, awesome, wonderful colleagues of mine. Jude, good morning. How are you, Jude? How are you today?
Good morning, Mr. Rotimi. I'm cool. I'm doing great. And it's a sunny Tuesday morning.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And then Titi, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Good Morning Nation Show.
Yes,
Welcome,
yes,
welcome,
yes.
TT. Welcome.
Good morning,
So
Jude.
Good morning.
I'm sure today we're going to be having a lot of questions. We're going to be having a lot of prophecy from the prophet of technology.
Yeah. Yes.
We're speaking about the school business or school business the way forward. And it's going to be a great time, I believe. Ronke Posh, good morning. You're welcome to the show.
Lady
Morning.
Posh, welcome. Welcome, Lady Posh.
Dude, how you doing? Mystery
I'm
man,
good.
why can't we see your face? Hello, Titi, how you
Uh,
doing?
Good morning, Ronke. Good morning.
Good to see you, nice and bright.
welcome.
I think the sun is setting, is rising from Ronke's place.
Yes,
Definitely,
yes, yes,
definitely.
yes.
Her
So
face is
I,
glowing like the sun.
She looks bright. She looks bright.
It's good. It's good. Thank you, guys.
it's just like let there be light, and there was light. Yes. So this morning we're hitting the ground running, and we are speaking about school business, the way forward. The times we're in, like they normally say, are interesting times. And so many things have been happening on the public space. We've heard a lot, we've seen a lot, and of course, a lot will still happen. And so I would like us to just go straight. Thankfully, we have all of us, we have our own experiences. We have schools that we work with, or we own schools, or we run schools. And it's an opportunity for us to talk about the issues affecting schools today. So, and I believe for those who are joining us on YouTube, on Facebook, and on all the platforms, please feel free to send me your comments and questions, and we'll be happy and glad to read them out and also address the questions as the case may be. So let's just start. School business. We spoke about resumption. We spoke about quality of teachers. We talked about resourcefulness. But the truth of the matter is that it will not be complete if we do not talk about schools and the business of school itself. Titi, I want to start with you this morning.
I actually thought Ronke was the best person to start with.
Why are you always picking on me? Why are you always picking on me?
I thought Ronke was the best person for. I think she was the best person to kick off this discussion.
You know, sometimes you save the masquerade for the last, so that
the explosion is great.
I'm taking that word masquerade literally.
No way.
No way, no way.
Okay.
Honestly, Rotimi, it's really been difficult times for the business of private schools. And it's not just in Nigeria, it's all over the world. I've read about what's happening all over the world in terms of private schools. Most private schools, their main source of revenue is based on, fees and tuition. And during this period of move from online learning, it's been a difficult time for them. And I don't think there's any school that's not affected, big or small, private or they're low cost or not. A lot of them have been affected. A lot of parents have lost, their incomes have been affected. Then, the perceived value of what online learning is. Over the weekend, I was with someone. She says, she's not paid for online learning. Let let the little girl just be watching TV from morning to night. She's fine with that. She doesn't think, there's any online learning for her to do. So that's just a sense of what a lot of people have been through. Even the people that would have afforded, they now find themselves needing multiple devices, multiple children. So it's really just been a challenge. It's really, really been a challenge for schools to, meet up. Meanwhile, rent is going. For those that have loans, even worse. So this is one of those industries that are really impacted. We don't know when honestly, we don't know when the end is in sight for them, because it appears that the hope of having school resume in September now even seems far-fetched. To be honest, it seems as if it might just end up being a next year thing if it's not online. So it's really been a challenge at this time. What we need more is really government and financial institutions seeing what they can do to help. That's from an external perspective, either delays in terms of loan repayment or reduced interest rate if the government can, press it on them to give some of those kind of considerations for schools. I think that's one of the things that can be done to help. But internally, from a school's perspective, I think one of the things they need to do is really, see what parents want as the new value. Because I always say that one of the other value that schools give is the fact that you kind of act as daycare, whereby I drop my child, I know from certain hours to certain hours. Yes, they're learning, but I also don't have to worry about that. So I think one of the key questions for schools is, what's the new perceived value for the parent, and what is the value that they're willing to pay for? I think it's a time for schools to be very honest with their parents. I don't think it's the one size fits all. Don't listen to, school A is doing this and school B is doing that. They can do that based on, things that they're aware of, based on their parents, based on the resources available to them and the level of preparation they had prior to, online. So each school needs to say what is the new perceived value for the parent and what is the value they're willing to pay for, because perceived value is one thing, and the value that they're willing to pay for them to then come out with, what's the new business, so to speak. I think it's more important for schools to see how to survive based on their pandemic and the play out. A lot of schools most likely will not be able to survive after this COVID, and it's important that the government realize that this is very key to them, because the out of school children that we're saying were 10.5 million will just really increase. So these low cost schools are important. The private schools, they're all important. Ensuring that this generation are educated. So I don't really have all the answers. I just know that it's something that requires a lot of communication. It requires a lot of consultation. And I think more importantly is to ensure that all stakeholders are carried along, the children, the parents, the teachers, and every school should just see what they can do to survive till things go back to normal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ronke Posh. It'll be good for us to also speak about this issue, and talking about that, let's go closer to the issues around resumption guidelines. I know that we're talking about the school business and the way forward, but let's talk about the resumption guidelines. The federal government and the Ministry of Education rolled out resumption guidelines recently. I would like us to talk about the way forward in terms of the reality of school, looking at it from the approach of the guideline. What are your thoughts on that, Ronke Posh?
So what are my thoughts about the resumption guidelines? The resumption guidelines, I was on Plus TV this morning and they asked the same question. And to be honest, I don't see how practical and realistic it is, those resumption guidelines. For public schools, especially. And when we say private school, doesn't mean that it's an affluent school. And when we say private schools, we have low-cost schools as well. We have schools that are private and they're paid every day. So they're paying $1 a day, or they're paying whatever, 200 naira a day for a child to going to school. That is the nature of some private schools. So are those schools going to be able to get isolation centers? Because I understand that that's part of the requirement. So already, some of them are already choked. They don't even have enough space. They don't have playgrounds at all. Now, even social distances in public schools, for example, we have some schools that have from 100 to 350. In fact, the day I had the 351, I was like, I wasn't sure. But even if it's 200 children in a class. Now, if you social distance them, even if it's the year 6 alone that go to school and you put them in other class, 200 children, it just is not workable. It just is not workable. And that is just for the exiting students. So that is just S3 and year 9 equivalent, SS3 with the 11 equivalent, and elementary, primary 6. And those are just those children. So those steps are not practical enough. Now, something phenomenal happened yesterday. Slums to School. You might know about Slums to School. There's Otto Orodam, and I hope I pronounce his name properly. He kind of like does this. He works with schools in the slums, and he's able to get them learning over the years. He's been doing it for many years. And yesterday he said on a platform that he had been able to get sponsorship from Microsoft, and they were able to get 948 children in the slums to work, to be learning online. 948 children in the slums learning online. And the pictures that he shared were phenomenal. They were looking good. You know, you would think you were going to one of those astronauts places. You know, you're going to somewhere really high tech. Jude, I don't know if you've seen the pictures. They were looking so good.
Yes, I've seen the pictures, and it was
so
very, very good.
Better than so many, you know, all the children were on screens on the wall. They were, you know, they were.
Yes.
So my point is, if he could do it, why are we making excuses that we cannot get to our own children that are not even in the slums necessarily? Why are we making those excuses? If Slums to School could do it, then anybody in this or Nigeria should be able to do it. And this is just one body of people doing this. How about if the government should rise up? The thing is that we need to prioritize it. Just like GT said, if we don't prioritize it, even if you have the discussion with the parents, the thing is that this coronavirus lockdown showed that the average Nigerian parent does not value education. They were even happy that they don't have to pay the school fees. They started forming WhatsApp group, fighting school owners and everything. I don't want to keep my children to school. It was an excuse, you know, because if it's important to you, you understand that we are raising global citizens and our children are competing on a global scale. Keeping them at home, you're not doing them any justice. And when I say keeping them at home, I'm talking about not even being online. I'm not saying physically going to school, because I'm not sending my own child to school, not even this year. I've already made up on my mind. And the school, I'm not interested in physical school. But online schools, if Slums to School could get children in the slums to school, then our government should be able to get our children, as many as possible. Let's carry as many as possible along. Because already as it was, in the north, for example, many children are not in school. Many local governments don't even have a school around. So we know that the challenges were already there pre-COVID. We're just using the COVID as an excuse.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's powerful. I think I'm drawing energy from your cup of coffee, Ronke Posh.
I even have biscuits today. Cheers.
Ronke Posh. In fact, I think we'll be broadcasting from your location tomorrow. We're taking
definitely.
Hey, Rhoda, how are you? Good morning. Looking good.
Welcome, Rhoda.
Welcome, Rhoda. I'm going to ask you to share with us this morning. We're talking about the school business, the way forward. And I'd like you to zone in on what perceived value should be. Of course, we are not necessarily having school as it is in terms of business as usual. So as a curriculum theorist, as an inclusion advocate, as an educator, as an expert, and also someone who's worked closely with schools, what should be the perceived value? Because I remember a lot of schools had the crisis of having to meet parents halfway, having to make parents understand what value actually is. So how do we get schools going forward to be able to deal with the issue of perceived value? Rhoda.
Okay, so thank you for having. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I feel a bit, happier. Not that, I mean, Otto's example yesterday was like really, really impressive. So I'm just like jumping up with Ronke when she was saying it. Perceived value. So you know how, like, let's make it simple. You know how, I mean, it's like Ronke mentioned, I alluded to the fact that there are parents, maybe not a lot, there are parents who didn't even see the value of keeping their children together online, learning something. And even for those who were offered free, we saw percentages who would not even engage. But you see, there is a level of suffering, and I always try to speak from the public education perspective. There's a level of suffering that does not allow certain people to understand what value is in terms of education. I've seen many parents who I've tried to interview for to ask reasons why they didn't engage with online learning. And the reasons vary from I don't have data to I'm going to work to I don't know how to support this child, all these new ways people are teaching. I don't understand it. So look, we don't have enough devices to spread around my 5 children or my 4 children and things like that. So you hear those kinds of examples, and then immediately you ask the question, oh my God, what sort of value is this parent placing on an education system? Because if there is one device, then there should be an opportunity for all the children to get engaged in it. So you ask yourself, well, there was an opportunity for you to go back and revisit the content that was shared with you, but they'll say, please, I cannot be doing it for 6 hours. So the question about value is relative, Rotimi. It is really relative because it's across income divides and at the same time across, of course, value divides. Because you see parents within the low resource environment, low income bracket telling you, I will do everything I can to get my children to learn. I believe that this is what they're supposed to do. So that value question is really a tricky one. But I think what is baseline for everybody at perceived value is that parents see that you understand their concerns, that your clients see that you understand their concerns, and that you are willing to tailor your solution or whatever you are providing along the lines of those concerns. So can I get a bit more cost-effective, low-cost opportunities to engage? So for example, you have instead of having your the worksheets that you can spread out or give to the children on online on your website, can it be downloaded? Can it be printed? Can it be multiple opportunities for engaging with the content is where the perceived value will begin to, in my opinion, begin to increase, because it's hard really. It's a very difficult question. Even the Harvards of this world don't know the answer, because everybody is trying to understand how it affects their pocket and how it affects their time. And pockets here, not only just your money, it's just your time, because time is money, So everybody's trying to struggle with understanding. And I think as more research comes out, we will learn more about what people, what the public or what everyone thinks is perceived value. I don't think I answered that question because I really don't know.
I like that. It's good for education, to be honest.
Rotimi, so I want you to comment. One of the things that, there's a lot that's being done, but we need to remember that EdTech is a fantastic solution, but it is not a short-term solution to the current crisis, because it's not something that you can scale up in the short term. There are 24 in Nigeria. It's estimated that there are 24 million primary school children. 24. So even if government is going to try to do a quarter of that, we are looking at what, like 8 million devices. So it's something that individuals can do in pockets, but when it comes with government, there's just the sheer volume of it that cannot be done in the short. It is a long-term project when it comes to rolling out EdTech as an alternative source or even a blended source. So for me, it's the short-term solution in terms of the business of school is looking for what we can do with the resources available to the various categories. It's not a one-side. You can't just roll out laptops or roll out devices. They have to keep looking at each situation and say what are the short-term solutions that they can roll out to just ensure that the business of school happens. You know, sometimes it can be creating a local LAN for SMS, but you need something that is scalable in the short term, and we can then look at long-term solutions of, you know, eventually try to get as many people online. So it's like Rhoda said, nobody really has the answers because the situation is varied. We can be looking at Lagos and the city, but what about the slums and even the school areas where light and internet is just a pipe dream?
Okay, so I would like to bring Jude into this matter. Jude, okay. Are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Now, you know, we've had a conversation around school business model yes. Canvas. Yes. I would like to bring you in on that because it looked like we didn't even think about the situation on ground per se, but what we spoke about that time was quite relevant. So I'd like to ask you this question. How would you consider when we look at the situation of the school business currently, right? What would we say has changed, and what would you consider or advise that should change in the business model of school?
Okay. The delivery of education should change. I think that's the one major thing. The delivery of education should change. Now, I'll begin with this. Rhoda was making mention of people not subscribing to devices. Everybody's complaining about time, but you find out that the poorest family in Nigeria, they have a TV and they have a DST connection. The poorest family in Nigeria, they have a TV and they have a DSTV connection. So that is almost like we are prioritizing entertainment over education. That's the truth. And it's a sad situation that if particularly every house prioritizes education and they have at least a desktop computer, which you can get 25,000, 30,000 from Computer Village for fairly use, and a stable, at least an internet connection, that at least puts every child in a classroom or in an online classroom. But in a situation where we have more TVs than computers in our homes, then there's a problem with our priorities as parents, and it's very sad. And another thing is that cars, TVs, cameras, microphones, smartphones, they have evolved over time. They have evolved and they have become sophisticated in the last 50 years, but education still remains the same. So there's a problem that at this point in time, we have not still found that scaling education online or scaling it with technology, we have not actually put ourselves in a position to make it better. So if technology has improved over the last 50 years and education remains the same, then there's something wrong. So like your question, our delivery has been very redundant. Our delivery of education has been very redundant over the last 50 years or more. That's where scaling or our business model canvas has to come in, our customer delivery or delivery to our customers.
All right, thank you very much. Quick comment
on what Yes, quick comment, please. Jude, to be honest, I work within the low resource environment schools, and I've visited quite a number of families. Believe me, when I say that the poorest of the poor do not have DS connections, they don't.
They don't have TVs.
They don't even have TVs. They don't have.
I agree with that. I live in the north.
In the light of that, Rhoda, in the light of that talk, even the ones that have, they are still complaining that they don't have laptops. And so if the average family can even scale up to have a device at home to learn, definitely we'll not be having discussion. We'll know who we are focusing on. But even the average families refuse to get even a device. So automatically the poor, there's nothing the poor can actually do about that. But for the poor families, at least we should know we should focus more on them than the average families that has DSTV and big screen TVs, and yet they are complaining they can't even afford a computer.
Jude, let me respond to that quickly. So one thing we need to be very clear about is that, which is why when I was talking about, first of all, not knowing the answer to this quagmire, is that we need to, one of the ways that we can, like scale any kind of solution across the business, school business, is that we have to have multiple opportunities for people to engage with the same material. So yes, you have an audio, for example, you have an audio lesson or a radio lesson. You definitely want to ensure that you want to look around how you can work with tech companies to help you provide opportunities where for parents to listen. So one thing is that you can get to the website and listen to the audio lessons, right? So another thing you can do is to create an SMS, code that can drive engagement to children listen to it on a feature phone. So there are smartphone options, and feature phones are what we call Malasa phones, right? Feature phone option, right? But even that itself also has its limitations, because there is one Malasa phone at home. And so the children have to listen to it per time. So that means your audio lessons cannot be streaming on radio at a particular time. You have to have the opportunity of that SMS USSB that will allow your children, 4 children or 3 children, to take turns in listening to the version that belongs to their classroom. So that's why the solution really needs to be it has to be multiple opportunities for engaging with the same content.
Okay, so Rhoda, on that, Rhoda. Yes, I actually rolled out a solution, the Plum solution. I actually rolled out a solution like that. And the solution was to make learning available on different platforms, both your SMS, both your online, and any device available. But the truth is that over the years, the problem we're having now didn't start today. It started over the years, where we prioritize entertainment over education. So the revelation just proves that COVID-19 removed the veil from our eyes to see that our priorities over the years has been entertainment, not education. Because every child,
I'd like you to hold that thought. We'll come back to that. I quickly want to ask Ronkepo a question. Before I lose that, it just came into my mind. Ronkepo, so I'd like us to hear from you, being someone who's active in the space. What has been the efficacy of monthly billing in terms of, I know that most times schools charge, or schools make their fee or their payment ahead of time. But we noticed that a lot of people shifted the model of subscription in terms of monthly payment. So how has that been, efficacy of monthly billing?
Well, I can't speak for everybody. I can't even speak for more than Le Poche School, to be honest. And as you know, one of my favorite quotes is, the most flexible of the system controls the system. So for us at Le Poche School, as long as you pay it, tell us when you're going to pay it, just pay it. We had people pay yesterday because tomorrow is our graduation, and we're fine by it. Just pay it, but understand that we are paying salaries too. So we've had people that have paid right on time, immediately. We've had people that have delayed. We've had people that are skeptical. They just online thing, taught them, because you can't blame them. The government is saying taught them, don't taught them. Some people paid in the middle. Just it has been scattered all around. Some people paid in 2 chunks, but it didn't matter to us. What mattered at this point in time for us is the continuity for every LaPosh child. The only ones we're not able to carry along are the babies in the creche, because they are babies, 6 months, 3 months. What exactly are we doing online, to be honest? But every child, and I said, even to our parents, if you can sponsor another parent, please do. If people are going through, let's just be a family at LaPosh at this time, and let's move forward. If a parent had come to May at that time and said, hey, Ms. Ronke, I cannot pay for my child at this point in time, I'm sorry, I don't know what will happen, but it cannot be an issue, because they did not bring COVID on themselves. So we are a family, we call ourselves a family at LaPosh. So we carry, it wasn't a monthly payment. If you want to pay every day at this point, to be honest, we are well accommodated. We didn't have a point, because the priority was continuity for our children, and we needed to bond as a family to support each other as a family. Parents in the school recommended that we have meetings on mental health, so that people can learn how to cope at this time, homeschooling, ideas from parents, which we absorbed and we implemented. So for us at LaPosh, it wasn't whether it was a monthly thing or not. However, I know that there are schools that have said they should pay monthly, do that. Okay, my daughter's school, for example, they started off with a monthly thing where they were paying every month, and then now, I guess someone feel, I didn't quite understand this, but whatever the case may be, just pay. Value education enough and know that the schools need money, and just pay. Please, we're begging you. Please, don't put it under your bed, please.
Thank you so much. So Titi, I quickly want to bring this to Titi. Jude, still hold your thoughts, but I'm bringing this to Titi quickly.
Okay.
As a consultant and as someone who is in the tech space as well, let's talk about merger. Is it a way to explore? Is it a medium? When we talk about schools merging, we've had a lot of collaboration. I believe that merger is an option, but are we ripe for merger in Nigeria? And of course, it's not about being ripe. Like Ronke Posh said, the most flexible of a system controls the system. So, Titi, could you spend some time talking about school mergers?
Honestly, I'm not even aware that a lot of mergers are things that we typically hear the banking sector and some other things. But honestly, if you look at the economics of it, it's actually a consideration, because if you can pull your resources together, pull your various resources together, and look at the value add, why not consider it? But I'm not sure that the mindset of people here and the school owners can accommodate a merger, more like an acquisition. But even now, I'm not even sure people have the finances to do an acquisition. So I would say it's not something I really see happening. I think more what we need is a bailout rather than anything else. Because by the time you start doing mergers and you see this beautiful apple, by the time you go inside, you find out that it's not really all it has been shown to be. So it's something I don't really see happening, honestly, in the education space. I don't think we have that pool and the mindset to be able to accommodate, but it's something that we should consider. I would say let's even just start off with collaboration. That's what I would say before we even get to that. Let's start off with collaborations of resources. Let's share ideas on what's working in our schools and what's not working, so that we can all together, create something. I feel that together we are stronger. If you say that this is what's working in your school, share it with others. So that's okay. I never thought about that. Let me try and implement it. I think also if we work together as school owners to manage the way parents also want to exploit schools, that would also help. I think that's a very important area. I know that in Nigeria, it's school hopping by parents. It's something that is it happens a lot, and it's actually how will I say, it's actually embraced. So someone goes to a school, refuses to pay school fees first term, they end up in another school, do the same thing, end up in another school. Sometimes, like what the banks do when they have, this credit committee that allows them to be able to identify people that owe across the bank. I think that some of those things that should also be considered. That's some of the collaborations that can happen. In Dubai, for instance, if you want to move to another school, you have to have a letter of reference from your previous school. So it doesn't allow people to move schools on the basis of default, and that's a government requirement. You have to move with a kind of reference letter from your previous school. So I think as we look at the industry, let's see things that we can collaborate to make the industry a better one, and for all of us to come out stronger. The population and demand outweighs the supply, so it's not something that we need to compete. I think it's really more of looking for collaboration. That's really what I would say on the matter.
I think I still want to hear more from this because we can't keep running away from doomsday. We just have to face some things as reality. We have skill mismatch. We have issue of equity. We have competence mismatch. We have gaps in terms of resources. So I'm going to ask. I'm going to come back to Ronkeposh, but I'm going to ask Rhoda, and then I'll also ask Jude. What is stopping us from actually exploring a merger in the school business as it is? We've realized that some people do not totally have the wherewithal, especially with the times that we are in, or the times that we are at. A lot of people will watch their school go down. As much as it's not a nice thing to happen or a nice thing to have, if merger is the way, so why can't we forge ahead and travel this road that is less traveled? Rhoda, please, in 2 minutes, and then I'll come to you. 2 minutes.
What's done is the measures and possibly acquisition. Why can't we go on this road? Look, so even the Minister of State of Education said that they'll be willing to get to let out of school. No, the word isn't let. They'll be willing to give us some of the schools that the federal government has to the private sector or anybody who is willing to take it up. I would imagine that with the number of children in those schools and with school fees not being paid lightly, that it won't be in the hands of, it won't fall in the hands of the private sector particularly. It might end up falling in the hands of development partners who have always been in the space of supporting public education and in the context of all children must learn and the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. But so there are different sectors to approach the thoughts around measures. So for the public sector, it's a bit, I don't think that, so I think COVID is an educational storm that is beneficial, ultimately, to Nigeria in particular, because we've had to sit down and think how, the mess that has happened to us and has brought us here. So with measures in the public sector, I would say, that's something that they should definitely look into. We cannot waste this crisis, neither can we waste this opportunity to have this honest conversations about the way we run our public schools, because we do not run it well. Bridge, for example, is particularly positioned to support government, and we're in government partnerships, but we know what it means in terms of cost. So we are great at managing, but it's a lot of funding that goes into it. So money is must somewhere. No matter how you look at this, measures are all about funding.
Economics.
When we answer the question of funding, then measures can happen. It's less about the fine lines and the fine print and the signatures. It's less and less about that, because look, you can get a professional to do all of that for you. They're there. The lawyers will tell you exactly what it takes, what the percentages mean. Like, you can really just have a master class on it for 2 weeks, and you get clarity on what this measure can look like. But so the public sector measures, I think there's a great opportunity there. Certain partnerships can happen, and we can do that if government is looking within that area. It's happened in other parts of the world. It's not a new thing. Liberia, for example, did it, in terms of, like, first of all, they profile different organizations that can support government. They're paying for it, but they are in partnerships, you know, in some kind. Maybe for the public sector, it might be more about partnerships and not mergers, you know, because public education is a right and is a good, is a social good. So, but for the private sector, if I were a school owner and I was in, for example, a street in Ikorodu and there were like 5 schools within that street, it's about being honest with myself. You know, the thing about us Nigerians in particular is that we tend to not like be open enough to share some of our vulnerabilities. It's always God forbid my tongue. Is, you know, somebody else, you know, and things like that. And that's been a big challenge. But anybody who is trying to think strategically, and if you have 2 or 3 people, you can come together and say, you know what, we're going to have this set of schools and a set of campuses. We decide what the name is going to be, and we'll have different campuses. Even better now is the whole social distancing, NCDC, public health guidelines, you know, to reduce the number of children within the school, all the number of classrooms, begin to count the number of classes. And you have separate campuses, the ECCDE campus, the lower primary campus, and the upper primary campus. As one school, a group of schools coming together to do this. It is possible for those who are willing. You have to be willing and you have to be honest.
So, Rhoda, it's still safe for us to say that that's some merger of some sort. We don't have to address merger from the traditional spectrum, where we're talking about cluster and collapse of entities. But we're also looking at merger in terms of either operational merger, functional merger, situational merger, so that what we want is we want schools to survive and we want learning to still happen as much as it can. So, Jude, I would like you to say something. Rhoda took your 2 minutes, so I'm going to give you 60 seconds. So you're going to say something. Whenever I do that, get your 1 minute back. So you're going to say something on that quickly.
Okay. On merger, I don't know why the name scares people a lot. When you say merger, people are thinking about banks. Merger, for my definition, the simplified definition of merger is a legal form of collaboration. That is just merger. Merger is a legal form of collaboration. Titi was talking about collaboration. Merger, collaboration in that sense also is a form of merger. So it depends on what aspect are you merging, what aspect are you working on together. So most times people I think it's a selfish nature for people to assume that you alone or one person alone can take their establishment from 0 to 1,000. Along the way, you still meet people that you need to collaborate with or merge with to actually enhance that vision, because we are all working together as an entity for one purpose. So if our purpose in schools is for quality education, I don't see why we cannot collaborate in a legal sense of merger to do that.
So, Rokeposh, I'm going to play the devil's advocate. Are you willing as a school to merge? And if you are, in what capacity would you like to explore the concept of merger in this period, at least for this situation that we find ourselves?
So just like Jude said rightly, which aspects of merging and what are we merging? Because there are days when I've had long days and I'm so stressed, and my prayer is just, God, because I just wish I had somebody to help me out with this. You know, it can get really, really stressful. So sometimes in the school, I just wish that there was somebody that I was working with, and I'm talking about, I mean, I have support, but I'm talking about just the day-to-day, you know, you need somebody. What are we collaborating? What can we share? What can we merge? Now I'm willing to merge, say, for example, this online learning. If we have a school that is teaching, maybe they're doing coding, the coding teacher can teach the children in my school and another school. So we're already merging. So we're even cutting costs by doing that. What are we doing? That teacher is going to teach, you know, that Yoruba teacher is going to teach X, Y, and Z schools around in Ikoyi. You are bringing costs down. And now that we have less professional teachers, it will work in our favor. That sort of thing, I'm happy to collaborate. I'm happy to collaborate. But when you now talk about belly economy, one-man band in Nigeria, that is just the way it is. There's nothing we can do about it. If you come and tell me to come and mix money with somebody, I have my reservations. Because even if you do the legal thing in Nigeria, the lawyers have a price tag. We've had too many stories that touch. Husband and wife are fighting. Brothers and sisters are fighting because of this school business. Tech platforms, this school business causes so much strife. So what are we, when it comes to that money one, we just need to be very, 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 very careful, because people can kill each other because of money. So when it comes to money, I don't even really want to even get things, let's know that we are sharing, maybe you have a stake in the profits. You know what I'm saying? There's a way that you can structure it, but not that somebody, I'm merging with somebody and okay, Le Poche, to the glory of God, we don't rent at Le Poche. Then somebody will merge with Le Poche, and then we now have issue of you know what I'm saying? You can get dirty.
Okay, it's more of operational measure. Operational measure. We're talking about operational measure.
They're very dodgy. So if we're collaborating, it depends on what we are merging. I can't go and merge something that will get me into trouble or I will get killed, because we have to face the reality of Nigeria. They can kill you because they want your money. They can kill you because they want your business. So we have to face that reality. I cannot go and merge with somebody I don't really, even if I know. In fact, the ones that you even know are even the ones that are worse, because the more successful you become, the more that they want to take you out. So please, I cannot, I can share resources, yes, but we must understand that the chains are coming. I keep hearing it. Yes, operations, thank you. The chains are coming. So very soon now, you hear that Walmart is around, and Walmart has opened a huge school, and they're charging only 50K, and they're giving quality education, and teachers are teaching from India, and they will take over, and all the schools will fold up. So even me as a teacher, I'm ready to teach. That's why I still teach every day. When there are anything, I'm ready, because the most flexible of the system does what? Controls the system. So be ready, because anything can happen, just like the COVID. We don't know what is going to happen with this school business of a thing. So whatever it is, keep reinventing yourself, keep evolving, because there are lots of surprises are going to come along the way.
So Ronke Posh, you have taken the mantle of prophecy from truth.
Yes.
Let's now.
I like the idea. Operational measure, yes. Operational measure.
Yes, operational measure.
But guys, let me say something here. Let me say something here. I think that one of the things that we might also be looking at is not just the issue of mindset, but the absence of system, administrative structures and systems to make certain things work. Our fears about having schools merge, especially even at the point of not just operational merger, but at the point of institutional and entity-wise merging as an institution where we have a bigger X school. It's not impossible. And I believe that nothing is impossible until it's proven impossible. That's one. Number two, we must begin to understand, just as we advocate for tech, just as we advocate for the future of schools, merger is an ultimate thing that will happen within the school space. Now, we need to decide whether we are going to be in the front end of this or we're going to be late adopters of this. But the truth is, it will take just 1, 2, 3, 4 to move in this direction and break that norm and break that jinx and build, something that might stand as a model to look at, across the continent. So I don't want us to always exalt our limitations, because it also shows that it's a pattern which can lead to limiting beliefs. But I want us to also look at it that we need to say something about it. Titi, you're an expert. You've done stuff around consulting, management. Yes, you are an expert. So why is that? What's happening? I want to see your face. You understand?
I like what Ronke said. Maybe we should start with baby steps. Baby steps, and maybe that's what this COVID will bring around. Because my concerns are our mindset, and the education industry is not yet it's not yet a economic vibrant one. Where there's so much money to be made. No, it's not like that. A lot of schools are struggling. Even the big schools are struggling financially. Some of them are just, using loans to just slide on. So in terms of the economic one, so let's push that aside. But let's look at, the collaborations kind of mergers whereby we have a pool, and then the schools all on the streets are using the pool and the facilities when we do resume, or we are doing online learning, and you and I have agreed that on the conditions that on the conditions that some conditions, your students can partake in my online learning, and then certain teachers can take this, especially some of those what I call non-core subjects like French. So it becomes something that allows you to meet both ends of keeping your teacher busy, able to pay them, as well as also generate revenues for you. So I know that I'm a school, and you are only doing those courses, and I say, oh, for a token, I do for my French teacher to do that. That way I can continue to pay them. So I think those are the things.
I will need you to answer the question in 30 seconds. 30 seconds, and I believe you can.
So I feel
what's going to make us have a merger. I think we need to, because a lot of school owners are listening to us across and probably will listen to us after. And I want us to, we are hearing people say hitting the nail on the head. I don't know if how many nails we will be able to hit on this head, but that head will shatter and scatter. Can you hit the nail in 30 seconds? Additional nail. The excellent teacher loves hitting nails on the head. So let's talk about it and say, what will it take for us to witness us gravitating and migrating to merger across the different mergers we talked about? But we know what we're saying. It is possible. If it is possible, what will it take? We need, some people are willing if they have the guidance and if it will be ethical. And I'm sure that sometimes it's a matter of alignment of values, not just alignment of interest. So I believe, just like someone saying, I'm afraid, like Ronke Epoch said, she doesn't want anyone that will kill her. I believe there are people that are like-minded that can work with Ronke Epoch, that can resonate with our values.
Yes.
You understand? Yes. We are not saying a forceful measure of numbers, but we're saying we're saying an aligning measure of interest, of values. And we do this in consulting, so that's what transformation and culture change is all about. So can you say that in 30 seconds, please?
So what will make school owners consider mergers and acquisitions? The more we're able to highlight what are the advantages to them, that they haven't thought about, post-COVID. So what are the advantages to a school owner if they are to merge? Especially for those, we bring them into the various classes from the low income to the mid, that if they fall in any of those categories, we can say what are the attractions to mergers and acquisitions, and what are the kind of parties they should be considering in the mergers and acquisitions. So that can help, to begin to help the seed to grow. I would say that. 30 seconds over.
All right. This is a politician. All right. So let's talk about school and their ability to innovate, especially in curating content, not just creating content, not just housing content, not just warehousing content, but in curating content. And I want you to start with that, and then we'll go to that, and then we'll go to Ronke Epoch. Quickly, Jude, two minutes, please.
Okay, I think, or I believe the problem here is we don't have an archive center or a digital library or a national digital library. So that is one problem, because if we have a national digital library, we know that every content, every curated content is somewhere, and every child can have access to it, irrespective of their device, whether they are using Palasa phone or whether they are using smartphone. So till we have this national digital library, we could even start with schools having their own individual digital library. So it starts with that, which in time can be merged to become a national digital library. So it's a problem of not prioritizing our digital content. It's a problem of not prioritizing our digital content. Like the way we have normal libraries, we should start looking at ways of digitizing content into a digital national digital library. That's my take on that.
Rhoda, very quickly, 1 minute, please. I would like to say something on that as well.
I mean, content creation is not, let's be clear that it's not an aggregation. It's not like you're aggregating existing content, or like you're just putting references or links and things like that to support information. No, content creation is mostly when you put things together, you assemble them, you categorize them, you organize them and present them in a way that is usually most relevant, right? And then for us, for school owners to come together and begin to curate content, the more they do that, the more they're exposed to new ideas, new topics, new conversations, and things like that. So in curating content, I see many opportunities for school owners. Like going back to the fact that if you're able to see the reason why people don't do content curation together, or the reason why people don't even merge or will not even think about the merger and acquisition is profit. Guys, we need to be honest. It's profit. It's profit. The back door of that.
I agree with you. Economics.
The economics of it. Like, how are we going to do this? So basically, content creation is schools partnership. I like the idea that Jude shared, which is like National Library. But I want to see an Ikorodu digital library. I want to see an Alimosho digital library. Coming together. It doesn't always have to be a national project. It just needs to be a community project. And so when that happens, people feel more related. When Ronke Post mentioned the change coming, we can't allow the change to win. The change can come and give content based on what they think we need. We know what we need, which is why anytime the development partners come, it's always about finding someone who understands the context. And we have to have that national agenda or community agenda to say all the children in Alimosho are going to be digital content creators. If that is what it is, then the schools together in that same community will now say to ourselves, we're going to produce the next set of Facebookers and things like that. These are the kind of things that we want in terms of content creation. Who's going to assemble it? Who's going to, let me just stop there.
Thank you so much. Rhoda, let me use this opportunity to appreciate those who are joining us from across the world and those who are making comments and asking questions as we are about to round off. So I would like to thank the excellent teacher. She's really contributed today. I think she's one of our star commentators today. Good luck, Ayadi. Thank you for joining. I'd like you to also, let's recognize Glory Garden Schools, Abeokuta, Cadet Academy TV. I would like to thank Tunde Daniel Johnson for joining. We'd like to thank Ifyok Ido Ikeagu for joining. Favor Idogun, thank you for joining. Nayo Amusu, thank you for joining. Okenfo Ajayi, thank you for joining. And then we have Florence Okoji, thank you for joining. We have so many people. Thank you for joining. And I'll just take one or two comments as we have our last words. Okay, Faja is saying, not just profit though. People come together without clear goals. This messes things up. She's talking about collaboration. She also said something about, she said, curating is adapting what exists to suit your purpose. And then, of course, excellent teacher is saying, hit the like button. Yes, please, if you're not following us all on social media, please do so. And start by hitting the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also get across to all of us, Ronke Posh, Rhoda, E.T., Jude, Safety Chick, Eben, and myself. And also, okay, we have one more question and then we'll call it a day. Okay, Dayo is saying something. I like Ronke Posh. I'd like you to answer this question. Is there any reason why schools aren't getting more parents engaged in the virtual learning process? What's stopping schools from inviting parents to deliver content? For example, reading to children. Can you do that in 20 seconds?
Yes, I can do that in 20 seconds. But I also wanted to speak to the fact that it's not only because of economics. So there are perspectives and we must respect perspectives, but it's not only because of money that people refuse to collaborate. We have to understand the uniqueness of our country and the corruption that exists in our country. Our country is very, very unique. At some point, I spoke to a consultant. You were aware of it, Praise for Owe, and we structured the school in such a way that we have stakeholders in the school. This almost destroyed the school. So it's experiential. It is experiential. So let's not assume that it's because people want to keep money to themselves, that's why they're not collaborating with schools. People are collaborating. People want to collaborate with school. I would love to collaborate. However, Nigerians, there's an issue of trust. There's an issue of trust. If the school was literally almost destroyed because we got people on board and it's a small school. We've been here. It's not like we were one big giant school. It's a small school. So I just wanted to speak to that collaboration in Nigeria, it comes with its peculiarities. It's a country where even babies and children are raised without values and they are raised to be corrupt. Now, if you don't mind flashing that question again, so why aren't we inviting parents at this time? Some schools are doing it. So some schools are doing it. So it's not a general thing. If parents are able to do it, but for us at Le Poche, for example, most of our parents are working right now. Most of our parents are working since the lockdown. A lot of our parents work in banks, petroleum, and all sorts of things, and they can't come and read. They're working twice as hard. This is the hardest I've worked in my life on this school. And I can imagine the parents, some of them, we have to make it flexible for them to submit their children's work because they can't manage work and the children at the same time. So if you're submitting your child's work at 7 o'clock because that's when you guys finish, it is fine because the pressure was on. So people are getting parents on board. It just depends on the availability of the parents. I still want to see the question because it was a two-part question. So I've answered the first one, but there was a second one. It was from Dayo Amusu.
Okay, she was talking about why parents are not involved. Why is it that parents are not involved in
that's
the
what I just
virtual
answered,
learning?
but there was a second part to the question.
No, I think you've answered it. I think you've answered it.
Okay, so if I've answered it, then that's great. So some schools are involving parents in the work. We just have to check what works for each school.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So I'm afraid this is where we will have to draw the curtains on this topic. I believe the conversation continues. I'd like to thank everyone who's joined us from across the world on Facebook, on YouTube, and those who commented, KK, Fajayi, excellent teacher, awesome people, Dayamusa, a lot of you who always keep up with our appointment every day. We'll be here tomorrow, same time, 8 a.m., and we will be talking about another interesting topic and area of focus. Please ensure that you follow Ronke Posh on YouTube, on Facebook, subscribe to our channel. She has a lot of hot stuff there. Subscribe to Jude, follow Jude on all the platforms. And of course, Dr. Rhoda is there, always ready to deliver value. Titi is the safety chick. She had network issues. She was in and out today. And then, of course, Eben of CME. Please ensure that you get to follow them all on the platform. So this is us saying,
Rotimi, you missed out one person.
Who's that?
He needs to be
Who's
fined
that?
for that.
Who did I miss? I said Titi now.
I didn't hear my name. Oh.
No,
Yeah.
you didn't hear the phone. I was speaking for Nene. I said Titi.
You are speaking for them. Oh, okay. I didn't hear that. You know.
Oh, you didn't hear that, is it? Oh my God. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a great time today. And this is signing out saying bye-bye. Ronke say bye-bye. Ronke say bye-bye. Titi say bye-bye. Jude say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah, thank you very much.